Hi, everyone. This is Growth Well podcast coming to you from Gaborone, Botswana again. We're looking forward to another awesome episode. So with me today is none other than a social entrepreneur of note, Kealeboga Motsumi. Welcome, Kealeboga.
Thank you.
Welcome to this show. And as I've said before, Growth Well's purpose is really to share some really phenomenal guests who come up with their experiences, their ideas, their insights that can influence what we are trying to do, not only in Botswana, but Africa at large. Also, as I usually say, the world is looking for African stories. And part of this is also for the global audience so that they appreciate our own unique stories. And I'm hoping that with Kealeboga, with myself, sharing some of the stories, we can also educate how the global north looks at us in Botswana and the rest of Africa. So with Kealeboga here, we have, like I said, a social entrepreneur. He founded an organization called the New Author Group. He'll tell us more about it. And also, what really touched me was he enrolled me in one of his initiatives called ElevateHER, which is a mentorship program for women in Botswana. And I'm sure he's got even bigger objectives than just limiting it to Botswana. And at that event, we had the mentors and the mentees, and it was a really, really groundbreaking event. I was very touched. That's how I got to talk to him and say, man, you got to come by and let's share the story. So I'm really looking forward to it. He's a very vibrant young man with high ambitions. And all I can say is that we've got to watch the space. Now, typically when we start the podcast, we start with a bit of a light moment or something that really makes us tick as a person or as an individual. I'll share mine and I'll get Kealeboga to also share his. On my side, one thing that I wanted to share is, we wake up every day and sometimes you don't feel too good and you're wondering, it's going to be a very happy day. It's going to be a very awful day or very heavy. One of the things that I do is do the famous cold shower. You'll be amazed what a cold shower does to your body system. There's a whole scientific and biological story behind it, but that's not for today. Just try to. It's not easy. I've talked to a lot of people about a morning cold shower after you wake up, but a lot of people say, So for me, it's a habit that I've practiced for 3 years. I've also been very, very scared of cold water in a cold shower. So I had to over the 3 years. And these days I can just go into a cold shower. And some people who do it globally say it feels like having had a good cup of coffee in terms of really sparking your dopamine levels, your happiness, and your vitality for the day. So try it. I'm sure you won't regret it. So Kealeboga, welcome again, my man.
Thank you so much.
And then just on that, just share in terms of what make you tick. Do you want to share any aspect of your life that keeps you going?
I think also just for me, it's the motivation of the people that are around me. The stark reality that I always have when I look at my mother or I look at my father.
Okay.
I was like, I have to get up. I need to do this. I can't fail them. But also the promise that I made to myself. I always look at my younger self and I remember I wrote a letter to my younger self to say, this is what you will achieve. And I read it every single day to kind of motivate me to say, where are you going? Where's your destination? You haven't reached it. So even in days where I feel like I can't do this anymore, because, social entrepreneurship it can be difficult.
Tough.
Absolutely.
Tough. Yeah, it's tough.
But you have these motivation takes or even just motivational talks. Go on, YouTube to just listen in and be motivated by the words. And if you're spiritual, by the word of God.
As well.
And prayer
a lot of
as
people
well.
do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Some even listen to good gospel songs in the
good
morning.
gospel songs in the morning on the way to the meetings. As you know, your nerves and anxiety can get a hold of you. But making sure that you are okay spiritually, socially, healthy as well. In my part-time, I was a wellness specialist.
Okay.
So I worked with F&B. So I could understand, where I need to be mentally, although I don't sleep because I'm constantly working 24/7.
Okay.
But yeah, absolutely. That's where I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And based on your writing every day, do you also keep a daily journal, or do you?
Yes. So my daily journal would just be actually not journaling too much, but on notes.
Okay.
So every single time I hear something, I'm like,
you note it down.
Mr. K said this.
Yes.
Yeah. Or I'm feeling like this.
Yeah.
Or I ask myself, Kealeboga, what's happening today? What did you learn today? So as an avid learner, I've given myself 5 notes to say, what have you learned today? One, what have you seen that you can improve about yourself? Where are the challenges? Where are you going? And then also, how can you overcome it?
Okay.
So that's what
and
I
you find that
do.
uplifting? Does
it does. It does, because it keeps track. We in our work we monitor and evaluate our progress with our work.
Sure.
But do we monitor and evaluate ourselves?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So where are you and where are you going? And you realize that where you are now is not where you were before.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, all these big writers on well-being and wellness, they talk about how, when people go to the gym, they go running, they go biking, they do so much for physical fitness. But the same discipline on mental fitness does not apply. Quite interesting. So we really have to look after our mental well-being on a daily basis as well.
100%.
It needs same level of maintenance.
100%. And you'd be surprised at the amount of leaders that actually exercise to lead better.
Yeah. No, great stuff. And just to kick on to our discussion, I think I just introduced you there. I just wanted to see if there's anything that you can add, especially, people get asked, what do you do? It's like, I'm a social entrepreneur, I'm an engineer, I'm a this.
Yes.
But in the end, who is Kealeboga?
A deep question.
Yes. In terms of who you are and how you want the world to appreciate who you are.
Yes. So Kealeboga is a solutionist and a strategy sage. But how I looked at it is I used my traumas to be able to create solutions. And I guess this stemmed from me needing to heal and understanding where the problems are. So wherever I go, I can identify problems. I can create solutions immediately. So then I was like, why don't I actually turn my weaknesses into strengths?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think it's a wisdom that everybody keeps talking about to say, hurt people.
Yeah.
But healing people help people.
Help people, yes.
Yes. So that's where I am. Kealeboga was born in Ramotswa to an incredible family. And then Kemolete. But then traditionally my father's from Matsiloje.
Okay.
And then growing up, my mom needed to finish school. So she gave me to her sister so she can finish. And then once I started grade 1, I came back to her.
Okay.
And then from there on, my education has always been great. My family upbringing has always been great, but there's always hiccups on the way. And I guess it's the environment in which we are put in that create us or create survival characters. And it might not be essentially the fault of the family you're brought into, but also the situations that happen. The abuse that I had witnessed, the essays that I had witnessed, the traumas of the family, the traumas, or even in my adulthood, where,
This is in the house, in the
yes,
home.
Barabeza.
Wow.
And I was
so
sharing
sad.
a house with my friend that time in university.
Okay.
And I remember after beating me, they were saying they wanted to, essay my friend. And I'd said, I'd rather you kill me
than do that.
Those words, so it was those words that I was like, there's something wrong here. And then I started seeking help because I realized that I was becoming.
You want to just clarify for the viewer, what do you mean by essaying? So a bit of abbreviation there.
So essay means sexual assault.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Trying to be diplomatic.
Yeah, I can see that. So that we don't lose the viewer.
Absolutely. So from there on, I started realizing that, for you to be better, you need to actually confront yourself and be well with your story. So this is me, Kealeboga, as a person that's well of his story, that understands his weaknesses, that understands his strengths, and that has taken his weaknesses and turned them into strengths. And hence me being a solutionist and a strategy sage.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'll say you are, based on the context of your background, you are looking at society and you think your strengths in problem solving and leveraging your past. As they say, you use the past as raw material to position your future.
100%.
Is that what's happening?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
No, wonderful. And just to and it might revisit what you just told me now. At the Elevate session, really wonderful session. It's amazing how you brought so many women together to be exposed to mentorship by key leaders in industry from different walks of life. And thanks very much for also roping me in. I always say that, learning doesn't stop. And for me, even from these women, when we had I think about 10 that we are mentoring, we learned a lot. And it was quite a surprise to the mentees that, you're also learning. I was like, yeah, every day brings raw material for growth. So just the stories you are telling. And what was really touching was the struggles of the women. I mean, from gender-based issues, from family issues, from work-based challenges, and just general growth by societal uncertainties of what's going on in terms of relationships and work. And that was very touching. But before we went into the mentorship thing that you really introduced to us, you went up the podium and you related a story. And you kept us thinking. I remember you didn't tell us who it was. You just related a story of a young woman going into adulthood and what happened. And then at the end, you told us that was my mom. And I could almost feel the tears dropping. And the big question that you asked was, how many of us can relate? And it's interesting how many hands went up, that we all go through this. But as we discussed before the podcast, we don't share, we don't acknowledge. It's very difficult. I mean, to be honest about it, it's not easy. But we apart from just feeling for you, we also now felt, this is our project as well.
100%.
Because this is our society.
Yes,
you are just a product of our society, and we can relate based on our background. I can also relate as someone who was brought up by a single mother with 4 siblings that she single-handedly trained and educated, disciplinarian and all that kind of stuff. So we can all relate to those challenges because my parents divorced very early when I was 11, and you can imagine my siblings were a lot younger then. So it's quite tough. So I just wanted for you, if you're okay with it, just share that story again with the listener, and for the purpose of assisting others out there in terms of the difficult inspiration and I know it's difficult inspiration of the story, because as we discussed, sharing sharing is giving type thing.
Yes.
And we need to try to share as much as possible, especially with the type of people that we want to grow in our country, in our continent, because it's a very challenging continent. It's a very challenging Botswana. And for us to grow, they say progress starts with the truth. And sometimes we go along, we pretend to be strong, but really there are things that are hitting us out there. So if you may, just to share that perspective of the background and how you ended up where you are.
So basically, you talk about the story of Regina.
Regina, yes. I forgot the name.
So, and
Yes.
you know, funny enough, is everybody loved that story and they resonated, like you had said.
Yeah, I did, yes.
So the story of Regina is a story of a woman that was born in the 70s. She gave birth young. And then, you know, she went back to school. She gave her child up. She found love. She lost love on the way. She's witnessed, you know, distraught of her mom dying when she was young. Her father following suit. Her siblings, all male siblings, following suit. And then having to find love again, and then only to lose it again, and then having challenges with money, and then finding yourself and your strength, picking yourself up. And then getting to the corner office, which we all aspire to go to. And then finding that corner office where you also encounter challenges in corporate, where there's women conflict, where there's you're too bossy because you're stern and you're firm in your decision making, etc. And then she finds herself also having to, because she's a nurturer, taking care of her siblings, because now she's a younger of older siblings.
Okay.
Yes. And then when
How many siblings has she got?
She has 6.
Okay.
Yes.
And she's the youngest?
She's the youngest.
Okay.
So there were 9.
Okay.
3 passed away.
Passed away, as you said earlier.
And then there are actually 6, and then she's the 6th one.
Okay.
So there are 5 siblings. So when I was relating that story, and I said to the people, you know, if you can relate this story, please put your hands up. And then all people hands up. And then when I said, this is my mother, I had people go,
yeah. We were like, oof. You know, actually, yeah, you did it very well. You're an extra.
And people were like,
yeah,
and I was
no,
like,
you're right. It was almost, it was a very sad, deep, touching story.
Yeah.
Almost, you know, poetic in a way.
Yes.
And yeah, we just thought you were relating something out there or from some book.
Yes. And the reason I did that is because I wanted people to take ownership of the project and make it their own, like you just said.
Like,
you adopt it like it's your baby. Then you're like, I need to make sure that this thing happens. I need to commit to the journey. And it's one of the other problems that we had encountered when we did the first installment of our mentorship program. We saw that women were not committing to the journey. And we went back and did our research, and we found why we should then make it more personal and ensure that they adopt it and make it their own. So ElevateHER was born from the raw realities of my mother's journey.
Okay.
And then the journeys of, you know, struggle, finding that we normalize struggle and we call it a woman's story. You know, it's part of being a woman. You have to stand firm. You have to be a nurturer. You have to go through these things. You know, and it's funny that you brought up the male aspect, which we'll touch base on later. And it's the similar thing to say that we need to be authentic with ourselves and be well with ourselves for us to be better. So this is me taking my traumas, my mom's traumas, taking it into a program, and then seeing then how I can help other people with the same story. Because when I asked her, you know, if you had a mentor back then, would your life taken a different you know, toll at all? And she said, absolutely. You know, my trajectory would have been absolutely different because I would have known how to handle certain situations. And we take mentorship, you know, very lightly.
For granted.
Absolutely. And you see the raw realities to say that this is what's happening in the economy. There are people that have walked the walk, and why not stand on those people's shoulders for you to elevate yourself to new heights? Yes, so hence why ElevateHER.
That's fantastic. Well done, buddy.
Thank you so much.
That's really amazing. But what maybe the viewers want to know is, and it will be the same thing with me. As you said, sometimes someone who's been hurt hurts other people. But the question is, where is the turning point where you? I mean, from my background, I can't actually identify the turning point. It's just I think I'm just born as a positive person, very optimistic, despite the struggles as a young man or as a young boy, predominantly. So, what would you say for you? You know, what was the transition from saying, this is trauma. Why has the world done this to my mother? Why has this happened to me? Throw away the books at university. Try some gutsy or cat. Or drink your head off. What would you say inspired you to stay on the right lane, so to speak,
and be better?
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, like you're saying, I think for me, I identified where my problem was earlier on. It's just that I didn't want to accept that reality, and I kept on going up until I was met with a dangerous road where I was like seeing that I'm leading myself to death. And then from there on, I remember my father's friend called me and said that I booked you, a session with a trauma specialist to try and understand where your problems are.
Yeah.
We might not know. You have told us where your problems are, but they can help you identify your problems. And I remember my first session was so.
How old were you then?
I think I was 5 years ago.
Okay.
So I think I was 24, 25, somewhere there. Yes. Where I've always been a go-getter. I think that...
So that drive is inherent.
No, the drive has always been there. Yeah. But the realization that I was driving myself to death happened late.
Okay.
So the drive has always been there because I've seen my parents, and my father has achieved quite...
He's a go-getter.
He's a go-getter. At his young age, he's achieved so much. He's created wealth for himself, so to speak. So for me, when the trauma specialist identified my problem, she started helping me speak to my younger self. And she said to me, write down your story and write down everything that happened to you. So I wrote down, I wrote. And I was right. As she was reading what I had written, she looked at me and she's like, how are you still not in a psych?
Yeah.
How are you still not in Sabrana?
With this.
And I said, I think for me is I created a resilience from my pain, but inside I was dying. I was dying because I was I couldn't keep up. I was drinking myself up. To death. The people that I surrounded myself with were not the right people. And my behavior and my character, my survival character that I had adopted was running myself to death.
Detrimental.
Absolutely. So then what I had realized with that is that we need to start unpacking our traumas as they happen. And even in our adulthood, we're still battling with our childhood traumas. And those are the ones that have molded us. That's why when something happens to you, your younger self shows up. And even when I do public speaking, I get so nervous because of the trauma that happened when I was 10 years old. So when I get there, my 10-year-old shows up. And then I'm scared. And then my older self would be saying, it's okay. You can now go. You can now say it because now you're ready. You've had practice. So it's about you going through the journey. It's about you then understanding where your problems are. And then someone helping you identify where your problems are and then helping you go through that journey with you. And I think for me, I'll definitely go back. It was too traumatic and I had left. Because I think realizing what is going on was a little bit too scary. But
so you didn't continue.
I didn't
with the
continue with the sessions.
Okay.
So then what happened was I was realizing that me not continuing with the sessions, then it was me helping other people heal my inner child. But also there's a fine line between helping people and people pleasing.
Yep. True.
So people pleasing was running me to death because now when anybody said, I need your help, I'd run.
You run and you're posturing and you're hiding things. Yeah.
100%. So then as you get older, you draw boundaries. You draw boundaries with yourself. You say, Kealeboga, you can't do this today. And even not waking up, sometimes you don't want to wake up. So I give myself, a threshold of 5 times to feel disappointed, and I'll say, okay, I'll call this a bad day. So if I haven't reached my 5, it's not a bad day. Anything can happen. But I always ensure that you need to have a threshold for you to be well, and make sure that you count each day as another day to achieve something that you want. Yes.
Yeah. This is wonderful, and thanks for sharing. It just reminds me of how, talking about the trauma therapist and, over time, as an entrepreneur, you got very low moments and you got high moments and you got the zigzags and sometimes, especially entrepreneurs, male ones, we have this macho thing.
I've got it.
The guys walk around with a big car and a nice suit but inside, especially as you said, if you've got issues that you are bottling up and they affect your relationships.
Absolutely.
They affect, you start having relationships with the bottle and so forth. So for me, and we all, due to that macho-ness, there is also an aspect of resisting getting help.
Yes.
And I'm glad that I think increasingly the support of therapy, I hear more and more people saying, I'm seeking help. And I've even gone further to say, it's not seeking help because you've got a problem. I'm not one who's very affair with, although as an altar boy, affair with the Bible. But the Bible talks about the original sin and how we are children of God. And the message there is that one very interesting philosopher, Ellen de Botton, talks about how as people, we're all broken. Maybe that's a bit dramatic.
Which is
but that's what he says.
Which is absolutely true.
He says we're all broken.
True.
And it actually says when you meet somebody or you are starting a relationship with a girlfriend or wife, you should tell them, by the way, I'm broken. And this is how I'm broken.
Yes.
Because we give this false thing, especially when you are dating and it's fresh. It's like, geez, this is a super guy because you always tick all the boxes. And then, but in the end, your real stuff shows up after 2 years, after 3 years. And it's just presented right at the start. So my belief is that, and his recommendation, Eliane, is that we need constant support of therapy. Not because you have issues, but even if you think you're okay, just get support because we're all broken.
Absolutely. And we encounter challenges every day.
Absolutely. So he's actually started a school. It's called a School of Life, and which focuses a lot on the emotional support of beings. It's based in the UK. He's opened offices all over the world and it's really taking off. And the idea is to provide ongoing emotional support and therapy to everybody. And this is the mode that now I always tell people, entrepreneurs, those in business, those who are struggling, to say, you don't have to wait to really drop in terms of your stage to be able to go and seek help. Go seek help now. There is a whole concept of what they call positive psychology, where we talk about, let's say people who have mental issues are below 0, they're in -3, -4. And they say that even if you believe that you are +3, in other words, you are really okay, you can still take 3 to 8. You can elevate your level of well-being and
100%.
happiness and thrive because a lot of people are just making it. So based on your story, and the assistance you got through the trauma therapist, risking that I'm not an expert, but I really encouraged, especially young people, to say, don't wait for the low moment. Psychotherapist, I hope it will become cheaper and cheaper so that more and more people can reach out, because some people just find the 500 pula per hour just
too expensive.
For such a strategic need. And also, Kealeboga, our society is also, quite in a chaotic stage. I mean, the GBV, Botswana has got one of the highest rape cases in the world in terms of incidents. We know how much we do in terms of the well-being and happiness reports. We're one of the lowest. And this is just not Botswana. This is the African. And part of the podcast is to try to relay stories like this, share them, and try to encourage people in a similar position to say, how can I deal with this? How are others dealing with it? So that we can also share. So the context of your country, this is our country. These are the things that happen. Divorce rates are very high, although divorce rates is a global thing. I mean, 50% of marriages in the US fail, So it's a very global thing. So thanks for sharing. So I'm glad you say that you perhaps will go back.
I will go back. I promise myself to go back.
Please go back. Seek the support. Especially, we discussed before the podcast with your journey with Elevate, with the new author group, with your company, which I would like to hear more about it. Because those just, the struggles will continue and you will reach low moments. And some of the low moments are triggers. And you got to make sure that when the trigger happens, you got tools and strategies to be able to mitigate those triggers. So I don't know what you think about that in terms of just keeping up and seeing how you can make sure that you sustain that level of well-being throughout. How do you plan to keep up, apart from the little bit of writing, inspiration from your parents and all that? Do you think,
I think also seeking support from collaboration. I think we take the African proverb, it takes a village, very lightly. It's as if we say that it happens when you're in your younger self and then you divorce it when you grow older. It's the collaboration that we need to have, whether it's the colleagues, whether it's, your friends, whether it's your mentors and your coaches. So it's those people that help you keep well in the journey, to be well with yourself and understand who you are, and also center yourself and be authentic with yourself. So I think before you can actually go anywhere and do anything, you need to understand who you are. And this is why we had created a session called Embracing Just Me before we did ElevateHER.
Okay.
So
it's called Embracing
Just Me.
Just Me. Okay.
Yes. I had talked about the fact that we had the first installment of 200 women mentorship program, and then we started seeing them dropping like flies, and we're like, what's happening here? And the raw reality was that we found that these women, when we did our feedback, they were saying that I didn't understand how tough this is. I didn't understand the commitment. I don't think I can do this. It's because people see themselves like Mr. Kgenwenyane and they say, I want to get to where Mr. Kgenwenyane is. Let me just do this. But they don't know themselves. They don't know their weaknesses. They don't know their strengths. They don't know the threats that are around them. They don't know then how to move around and maneuver around them. So it's important to know who you are, know yourself, and then surround yourself with the people around you, because they also can't help you if you don't know you're the problem.
Absolutely.
So Mr. K can't help if he doesn't know what the problem is. So there's a diagnosis where you go with the therapist, diagnose the problem, find the problem. Then as you encounter, your journey in adulthood, you encounter your mentors, your coaches, your friends alike, and also not forgetting God, and, the spiritual welfare, be able to talk to God. I always say, before I go to people, I talk to God and I say, God, speak through someone so I can hear your voice. So I will speak and I'll tell them my problem, and profoundly, my mentor will have an answer. And I was like,
okay, wonderful.
And I'll see the signs sometimes as I move around, and then I'm like, okay, this is where the problem is.
What is your grounding for spirituality? How did that happen? And I'm saying this because it's not easy these days for people to visit their spiritual self. I've got a lot of I'm an engineer and scientist, so there's always that debate that and that disrupts the whole, because I sincerely believe that everybody has got the spiritual self. And we're not talking about religion, because people quickly go to religion.
Absolutely.
How you define your spirituality differs from person to person.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
I have mine, you
absolutely.
have yours.
Absolutely.
There might obviously be where we are meeting. So how did that come about on your story?
So
and sometimes it's mums. I mean, mine was just a hot discipline of Sunday school. Every Sunday with no doubt, church on time, and participate in church, and those type of things.
Yes, absolutely. I think for me, spirituality, I've always been born into a family that's very spiritual. My mom's family is Roman Catholic.
Okay.
And then, yes, my three, four sisters, my mom's sisters, my aunts, the ones that also raised me. So everyone keeps asking, how many moms do you have? Because when you get to a family function, mama, and I have 9 moms. So I went to church. I was introduced to church very early on in my life, but there's a certain point where I started having a relationship with God.
Okay.
Because you can attend and not know. And then there's a part where you start having a relationship with him. So for me, my relationship with God started when I started encountering these problems. And I was like, okay, this something is happening here. What's happening? Who can I lean into? And it was God.
This is beyond me.
This is beyond me. From the bullying, from, all these other things that was happening in my life. So when I was, I think, 16, 18, I started being very spiritual, and I started praying to God, going to church myself. My mom shifted from being Roman Catholic, and she was married, and she Abana Musabata.
Okay.
And then from Seventh-day Adventist, we went to Pentecostal churches.
Okay.
So my mom was always trying to find the answers. So I would move from church to church to church.
Going with her.
Let's go. And it will be me, And then I started having my own relationship with God. And my relationship then flourished into something that I didn't think it would be. I might not have a good relationship with the Bible, but with prayer, I'm
Absolutely.
one.
We all do it in our own way.
With prayer, I'm one. But like I said, as avid learners, we learn as we go. And I'm going to try and make sure that the Bible becomes my friend. But that's where I started realizing that you need to have your own relationship with God.
Absolutely.
Because in as much as your parents are there to guide you through it, because they're showing you the roadmap to where they think this is a better life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. They pave way, they sweep to show you direction. And then the problem with us is our antennas grow, and then we find our own paths. So in as much as she's introduced Roma, I went into Pentecostal, and I found it more enriching, more. I found my heart being more fulfilled.
Okay.
Being able to have that relationship with God. Yes.
No, that's wonderful.
Yes.
That's wonderful. No, great. I think let's go to your enterprise now.
Yes.
In terms of the new author group, and I'm quite intrigued by the name. And I know you've talked quite a bit about the inspiration and the background, but just touch on when was it started? What are the objectives? What are you trying to achieve with this organization that you founded? With
this animal called New Age Author. So New Age Author group started in 2015 while I was in university. I might not have been good at presentations, but I was always been good at strategy.
Okay.
And I think, I don't know whether it's because Kinale, my dear, I'm a soldier because they have strategy. My dad was a soldier, but I've always been very strategic, and I've always had critical thinking skills.
Okay.
So I realized that all the projects that I was doing with my teams would always win.
Okay.
And then
this is at school now,
at university. And then from there on, two of my friends, we created a consultancy company called New Age Author Group in 2015, because we were saying we're graduating in 2016.
Okay.
So when we graduate, we need to get into
something that we can get going with. Yeah.
But as we all go, there's people that have dominated the industry, and our problem with that, we didn't delve into the research. We didn't have a proper market research. We do the theory in school, but there's no practice.
Absolutely.
And the practice is going to the real world and really understanding who the game changers are. And if if companies actually take upon new people, fresh graduates to come and do the marketing strategies, forgetting that there's something called experience. So 2015, I saw that it was not doing well. So then I dabbled into dancing.
Okay.
I started dancing, I think, in 2012 with Mopata Dance Theatre.
Okay.
And then my director then, Andrew Zokola, was saying that I want to challenge you. And he threw me in the deep end where I was marketing and project director. And then from there on, birthed so many opportunities.
I think just for the viewers, just to snapshot, I think Mopata, what's it called again?
Mopata
Dance Theatre.
Yes.
I mean, this is perhaps Botswana's most prominent dance group. You'll tell us whether it's still going, but I know that you've toured the world, you've gone around, and you have some amazing shows that you've had.
Absolutely.
So I'm quite thrilled that you are part of that, or you're still part of it. I'm not too sure. You tell us more.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah, but you went through that phase.
Yes.
Okay.
So I went through that phase, and that's where I think I fine-tuned my leadership as well as strategic skills.
Okay.
Learning to pitch, writing proposals, and imagine going to, the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture in my year 2 to say, I want to take Botswana to Norway to go and represent art. And I want to create a collaboration with Botswana Tourism so that we can export cultural tourism to other worlds. And they're saying, how old are you? And I say, and I think for them, they were more interested in the outcome. And then when we came back and I showed them the outcome and what we can do, it birthed new opportunities.
So they supported you with this initiative?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That was the first, I think, trip that I had taken with Mopata. Mopata had already been around, but it was from a project and then turned into a business and our company.
Okay.
Where the leader Andrew Kola has really done well with it, and it's still surviving right now, doing amazing things. Yes. So then with New Age Author, I went back into it. I think in 2018, where I was introduced to it with Miss Indiko Gidi. God bless that woman. That woman really catapulted my journey into consultancy.
Okay.
And what she did was she believed in a young person that is driven, that is able to create change, and she listened to me. And I said, I might be young, but I'm the future voice of your customers. Yes.
Yeah.
And then she said, I believe in talent. And all the other leaders believe in talent and they want to ensure that they harness it.
Yes,
and you give challenging opportunities. And that's where I learned wellness. She introduced wellness to me.
Okay.
So we went into wellness. And then from wellness, now we are, into consultancy where we do strategy with financial institutions. But then I started realizing that my whole purpose is actually just to help people. And the business is about helping people, creating solutions, hence the tagline, crafting success stories. And what our vision and our missions are is, I think we call it Parked, where we partner for thriving communities. We accelerate women's progress. We are relentless about trying to find, other solutions to ensure that we curate, ecosystems that are thriving, like for entrepreneurship. And then we dive into trying to disrupt mindsets for innovation. So in all of that, we created a strategy called Strategy Ascend,
Yes, that's why I sent 2027,
yes.
is it? Yeah.
Strategy I sent 2027.
Yes.
Where as we are cultivating and we are curating, we're trying to show, financial institutions, but also just the private sector, to say that you cannot divorce yourself from sustainability. And what we're doing is we're taking, financial, or let me say adapt financial management, and saying that with this, you can grow and create a foundation of success. Botswana, as we're reaching high income status for 2036, we need to also just heed the call and then see how we can diversify ourselves.
Sure.
So what we are saying is, as the diamond is diminishing, as we are diversifying ourselves, look at ways in which we look at the key focus areas and looking at the economies and looking at where the problems are, so that we fix those problems before we can try and get there. Because the problem is that people think that high income status is all about infrastructure and money.
Yes. That's why I have a problem with this prosperity.
Yes.
Because prosperity just gives a wrong meaning, isn't
100%.
it? Yes.
100%. So
I'd rather have a society that's healthy and thriving, but thriving not necessarily money-wise or big cars or big houses.
Absolutely.
But, so this prosperity for all gives that little bit of implication. Yeah.
So if we're saying that we are going for a high income status, how then are we looking at our communities? What about our ecosystems? What about the knowledge-based economy? And what are we saying about it? What about the culture that we have as Botswana? How we ensure that we are reshaping it? How we ensure that we are disrupting minds and being able to help them catapult, to drive for innovation. So we are saying to everyone, and not just maybe financial institutions as per se, but also as individuals, how are we ensuring that we are also part of the equation?
Okay.
So hence why, as New Age Author, we are trying to be part of the equation, and we are trying to pull other people and other resources into the equation as well.
So when you started the business at university, was it more sort of a typical enterprise or entrepreneurship? Now, just on your definition now, it tends to be transitioned to more social type thing. Was it a deliberate thing where you say, really, I feel for people, I feel for women, I feel for the disadvantaged, that you started straying towards that, or that was the original thought of the business?
No, absolutely not. I wanted to be a marketing agency and make money.
Yeah. So what happened then?
That was just it. I think as you grow up and you become wiser and you gain more experience, you realize that you need to refine our strategies. You need to refine where you're going. And you need to also find an identity. And how then you can kind of distinguish yourself from the rest. So
that's how you
this is how I've distinguished myself from the rest, to say that in as much as we do help profit-making businesses to try and make sure that the lights are on, our sole purpose is social entrepreneurship, to catapult Africa as a whole, not just, Botswana, intentionally, as I had depicted earlier.
Okay. Now that's, as I think you touched on it, Jorge, kind of with social entrepreneurship. Half the time you got to raise money, the lights have to be kept on, and the challenges are maybe peculiar compared to the money-making machine that other people strive. And entrepreneurship in Botswana is quite a challenge. The market is typical Africa,
absolutely,
very overregulated, bureaucracy, red tape, all those things, access to funding is a challenge. I mentor quite a number of young people in business. Just to give you an example, there was one young lady who was running a startup since early last year. And, we have coffee once in a while. And, we met and she said, Mr. K, the other day I was driving back to the office and all of a sudden my body was, it was getting mixed up. I was having, and she was just basically collapsing. And she called the mom and said, no, park the car. She managed to manipulate the car to the office. And when she got to the office, she collapsed.
Jeez.
And she managed her workmates, took her to hospital. spent the night there, woke up, and then they tested everything. And at the hospital said, everything is okay. Your problem is stress. It's just the anxiety, the stress. So you can imagine there's cash flow, there's this, there's, sometimes also a bit of corruption that really, when you are a very clean person that wants, you don't want to be a card carrying this, you just want to be just genuine and be yourself. And all these challenges play out. Now that's on the enterprising side. So on your side, what sort of challenges are you facing in terms of getting your organization where you want it to be? Those very unique challenges that...
social entrepreneurship, I think for me, I really went deep into it, I think, when we launched the Ministry of Entrepreneurship in 2022. And then I got the opportunity to be one of the first delegates to go into the Forbes Under 30 Summit in 2022. And I had met other social entrepreneurs that were making money from the tool. So for me, I came from wellness where it was fairly profitable. It was keeping the lights on.
And it's a growing industry, isn't it? More and more of the companies want to instill awareness in their workplaces.
So it was great, and then COVID happened, and then everything shut down. Everything was now being internalized, and specialists were then hired. So then your job is not needed as a consultant because you're becoming too expensive for the institution. So even when we were trying to go back into the market, we were really trying to really understand then how can we ensure that we become relevant. So when I heard about entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship development, I learned deeply about it. I met the head of Google Startups at the Forbes Under 30.
Beautiful.
She introduced me to the ecosystem in Africa, and everyone else started making friends also in the network.
At global level.
Under my bandwidth, I have 200 VCs. So then I started learning more about it. And then that's when, I met Helen Chilisa, who was amazing at, helping me understand the tool itself, the movement and the framework. And then I met Komotso, who also helped us try and understand. And then we launched the Ministry of Entrepreneurship and the Blueprint in 2022. But then...
When you say you launched, were you participating in the launch or you are driving the launch?
So we were driving the launch as consultants.
With the ministry.
So with the Ministry of Entrepreneurship. So we created, platforms during Global Entrepreneurship Week so that we're able to reach at arm's length, and launch the framework and the blueprint to the entire nation. Because the HE launched a Ministry of Entrepreneurship, soft launch of Ministry of Entrepreneurship at the Forbes Under 30, where he had said, we want to do things right and we want to do things differently and we want to disrupt. So then for me, I was like, okay, this is my chance to get into social entrepreneurship. Let me learn the tool. But boy, was I wrong. All the money I had saved up
got gobbled
up because I did not prepare, I did not understand, and I had no business plan. I thought that I was going in with my craft of understanding strategy and creating solutions to try and help Ministry of Entrepreneurship create, the framework for entrepreneurial development, etc. But even the events that I was creating, I was making loss after loss. But I was like, essentially, I'm not this type of person. I'm very good at sponsorship. I'm very good at creating collaboration.
What's going on here?
I was wondering what's going wrong here, And I went back and then I created, I had to really prepare 2024. 2023 was all about mistakes and learning from those mistakes. 2024 was all about preparing myself and then launching properly.
Excellent.
So I took, a 4-month hiatus where I was really embedding myself, trying to understand where the problems are, understanding the economy and where we're going, and understanding the needs of the people in the economy. And then when you do that and then you prepare yourself and you talk to people early, you're able to then feature yourselves into their budgets.
Absolutely.
So the challenge I had was featuring myself into people's budgets, because now with social entrepreneurship, you constantly have to fundraise.
Absolutely.
But what I understood is that social entrepreneurship in Botswana, or in Africa as a whole, is not the same as, in America or other worlds, because with them, they believe in social entrepreneurship because they want to create a difference. They understand that the people and the nation are the people that can actually catapult to high economic status. Because if you have a well nation, or if you have a happy nation, you get to, high income status through different fields.
And in being inclusive to make sure that
absolutely,
even the needy people, the isolated people, marginalized
100%.
people, they're all in the journey.
So they heavily invest, and there's a lot of philanthropy. But with Botswana, we kind of give the responsibility to private entities and government. And if those two people don't have money, then you're
stuck.
in problem. You're stuck. So I had to really prepare myself. I had to really have the conversations early. And then this is how then it became better, and the collaboration started coming.
You got wiser.
I got wiser. Through the journey.
It's interesting. I mean, it's all to do with basically hitting a blockade, and as they say today, sometimes you need to fail for you to wake up and learn from those failings and be able to pick yourself up and be able to run again. Because I mean, as an entrepreneur, I have had 2 failed businesses, and for me, those are I call them mini MBAs.
Yes, absolutely.
Because you learn, and then you make sure that as you go on with your journey, those lessons are intertwined into your model as you move forward, to make sure that you got resilience as you move forward. So that's quite interesting. And I say this because there are a lot of aspiring social entrepreneurs, and I find that with the different generations, the generation Z, I think that's what it's called, and even the millennials. There is a lot of young people that want to go into social entrepreneurship because they want to help. There's that drive to want to help. And I think the challenges and experiences that you have can be very helpful to just, like you said, the ecosystem is not easy. Like you said, in the States, in the North, in the global North, a lot of, billion-dollar corporates are, 100%. If you come with a brilliant idea, they can give you a 3-year contract, and you know that
easy.
You are sorted, And similarly, even government and all that. So there's a lot of philanthropy with lots of money. But here it's quite different.
Yes.
But you believe that it can still work? I mean, how are things turning now for you, especially with the Elevate project and all that? Are you getting the support that you need, do you think?
I mean, yes, absolutely. We are, I think when you're trying to, I don't think I'm a pioneer.
Okay.
Let me start there. I don't think I'm a pioneer in the space. I think I learned from other people's mistakes, and then they helped me groom as well. And the mistakes that I saw from people is the fact that they only look at Botswana and they don't look globally, or they don't look at the African context to seek help. And that's where the biggest mistake we have. We look at only the enterprises and the ecosystem that is currently facing us, and we think this is the only help that we can get.
Very good point.
So you really need to go out there, and you need to collaborate. And like I said, Forbes really created that platform for us to network. You need to network. You need, and for me, I think it helped me because I'm 10 years in the game. Understanding entrepreneurship, because I started very early. So, even when I was pitching to MCM, which is the Chartering Institute of Marketing in the UK, I'm one of the youngest members globally because they understood my journey in marketing.
Okay.
And they actually were saying, because I was scared to think that maybe they want me to be professional in the sense that I need to belong into an organization to charter.
Yeah.
And they said,
it's not that bad.
It's not that
I think sometimes you're just scared of reaching out there. And stories like yours, can inspire young people to say, some of us travel a lot. Actually, out there is no big deal. People are not doing some things which are rocket science.
No.
They're not any better.
No, absolutely. So, and you need to put your skin into it and also just invest into yourself and invest into the business to try and see then where you can go. So for me, what I would say is collaborate, be authentic in your story, and have integrity. Because once you are authentic and you have integrity, authenticity sells.
It's powerful.
When you go to people and you tell them your story and you're authentic in your story and they believe in it, it's easy for them to give you money.
Yes, to invest in it.
Yes, and you just see things, help just comes. The collaboration for me, especially with the mentors, it's really incredible because I didn't think it would reach to this magnitude, to the point where every single institution is actually having a conversation about it on their social media platforms.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Also support from Lead as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jeb.
Yes. You have your banks, you have your other financial institutions. Stanbic Bank was really great at it because they wanted to show the credibility of the program. Because
before we go into Elevate, because we're going to go into that next.
Yes.
I just wanted to, because you keep mentioning Forbes and you just pass.
Yes.
Like as if everybody knows Forbes. So I think just to the viewer, how did you get involved in Forbes? Because I even know I was listening to a radio program the other day where people were calling in saying, this is a gaps thing. It's the Gaborone issue. All these elite youngsters in Gaborone meeting all these global youngsters and entrepreneurship, but we are isolated. But, sometimes you don't need even a Forbes. Maybe there are other platforms that they can reach out to. So just a few words on how you got involved with Forbes so that they can also explore that and how, I think you've elaborated on that around, especially around networking and collaboration, what it can mean to an entrepreneur, especially in the social entrepreneurship space.
So for me, how I actually got into Forbes is I was preparing for Dubai Expo 2020, where I was one of the production managers for the Botswana Day.
So that whole big Botswana Day, that was,
when Botswana was, pitching and celebrating their day for Dubai Expo. BITC did a great job with collaborating with Andrew from
Mapato,
and then he just roped in as a production manager.
Okay.
And I learned actually so much from that huge event, which has also created such a platform for me when it comes to the events that I hold and the standard and the quality that I bring to events. So for me, Forbes, when I was there project managing the Dubai Expo and the talent, one man from my sec was actually there and he asked me, do I know about it? And I said to him, I know about it, but I don't know how to get in because I see people are going, but I don't know how to.
Yes.
And then he said to me, go see someone called Tato at the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. And I went there and I told Tato my story. And I said, this is what I've done. This is what I'm doing. How can I get in? And she's like, you do what? And she's like, this is great because we're always trying to hear about other people and other entrepreneurs.
Stories,
Absolutely. And it's different with other people because the first round, De Beers was bringing people from the Stanford Seed Program, alumni. Leah was bringing part of their cohort that they're doing, also mentoring and facilitating. SIDA was also bringing in. So different institutions were sponsoring. The people on my sec was also bringing in. So I think we were 200 young entrepreneurs from different industries to then see, how we can collaborate and find solutions and bring back to our country. And then from there on, I've never just stopped going.
Okay.
Yes.
But it was a very important platform in your journey in terms of participating.
100%. It was an important platform to show the opportunity that I can create for myself and how audacious I can get. Because the problem is when you're boxed into the country and where we are, it's very difficult for you to dream big. You might have a dream and dream big, but you won't know where to how to get there.
That's true.
So when you travel and you network and you collaborate, you see how other people are doing. I have a friend who's also a social entrepreneur. Her name is Charlotte Magai. She lives in Kenya. And what she does is she has a clean cooking stove. And what we then realized is when I was having a conversation with Vanessa from De Beers is he was also talking about how they're struggling to try and help social entrepreneurs that are in service. But it's very easy to help entrepreneurs that are doing products because they're addressing climate change.
Exactly. It's very tangible.
It's very tangible. It can make money. And it's very sustainable because it's a generating tool because she sells those stoves and she's created killing out of it. Her business is worth $20 million now just from social entrepreneurship. So it's also how what other people are doing, and then what you also can do and how you can also get there. So as I also travel, I think we'll go into elevator.
Yes.
But I'm traveling very soon to try and also meet people in international agencies to see what they're doing in other programs and then how I can get there.
Okay, you can go on to Elevate.
Yes.
Where you are now, and you're talking to me about how you're getting such demand now and everything.
No, absolutely. I think for me, when we created ElevateHER, we wanted to transform women. And I had to really, like I said, understand the economy where we are, understand their needs and create a formula from all of that, right? So we couldn't just speak to people and then say, okay, but this is how it's going to help people. I think the biggest problem we as social entrepreneurs, we need to understand the multiply effect or we need to go into research on to how it's going to help other people. People call it the multiply effect. There's the butterfly effect. There's the network effect. So for us, we need to understand, we needed to understand it numerically and then understand it also in words to say, how then do we put it out there to say how it is it helping people? So when we pitched to different institutions and the different partners, when we explained the multiply effect, we said that it's direct impact plus indirect impact plus societal impact plus organizational impact. So it's a whole entire circle that when you put these women in there, there is a median where we call it the network effect when we did our research to say every woman has an interaction with from 4 to 8 people. 4 meaning the women that maybe are single or don't have families and only have their only child, auntie, and a colleague. And then the people that live with their moms and their husbands
and aunties
and that's
so
8. And then when you have that median is 6. So then we said 6 times 64, which then reached to 64,000. So then we looked at to say within those 64,000, that's the societal impact that they go back to their communities. And because they're fresh and renewed, they can share insights on how to tackle some of these challenges. And they come, presenting themselves different. They show up different for themselves. So the collaboration from there on it was a no-brainer. To all the mentors and all the other institutions that want to jump on board and see that how can help. And what we had said is that because we might be too early into budgets for other institutions, help us where you can and what you have. Hence why Stanbic jumped in.
Came in big time.
Stanbic jumped in and they're like, you know what, we will host the first one. It was a no-brainer for Chose, for Stephanie, Kushata, Chilisa, as well as Pinky Douglas. And all the other mentors are coming in, for the next session. Bitumelo Mokopa, who's my incredible mentor. She's seeing how they can challenge non-communicable diseases. And then Ohone Madisa is looking how she can also challenge, cervical cancer for women. So it's a great,
very pertinent things in our society.
Absolutely. It's actually incredible, and the people that are trying to also come in on board. And the effect that it has on other people. Now they want to be mentees. And that's why we're also releasing a new link for 2025 cohort. in July.
In July.
Yes.
Same number?
We want to go to at least 100 or more.
But I want
to go into 100.
Yeah.
But also within that, find new tools, because we're doing research and development and constantly asking people.
Especially online tools, which are not too heavy, not too expensive.
100%.
We can explore such that on an ongoing basis, they've got support.
100%.
Yeah. And being a social enterprise, you might get, very inexpensive. Say, no, if you're not making money out of this, have it. I mean, there are companies that will be very happy to do
100%.
that. 100%.
So that's what we're trying to do, because we're trying to also get the reach.
Yes.
Of the people to say that, because there was one of the mentees that lives in Maung. She's like, I want to attend. But I'm in Maung. What can I do? And, I felt so sorry. I was like, do I pay for her transport? I was asking my mentors, do I pay for her transport?
Yes.
Do I ask my other partners to pay for accommodate? Like, what do? And then she said, but that's one person. What about the rest?
Yes. Because so you do that, you have to do for everybody.
Yeah, if you do that, you have to do for everybody. So then I started realizing that, okay, fine, let me go back to the drawing board while the program is still on the way. And then we see how then we can
treat it as a pilot, and then you just pick lessons, and then you fine-tune the next one. It's an iterative process.
100%. And the learnings are incredible. They're incredible. Absolutely incredible.
This is amazing.
Yes.
I think with this podcast and, women out there, young women out there, you're going to blast him with requests for next year. Please do, because it's a really fantastic program. And I was there the first session as a mentor, and just amazing impact on the young people, especially who are really striving to do big things. And they just needed that support. So really, it's amazing. And reach of 64,000 with a few women. And like I said, women touch them. They've got kids, they've got nieces, they've got, so the reach is the impact will be quite phenomenal. So all the best with that. That's really quite amazing. So yeah, and then the other one, and the last one is I was coming there. The fact that there's a big cry when Kealeboga globally about and it's not all about people talk about the boy child, but there's a little crisis brewing out there about the man. The man, and the statistics are really screaming out there to say all these initiatives, the gender equality, the favor, almost affirmative action to favor women. More girls are passing in schools compared to men. The school system is set up more for, organized administrative girls compared to sometimes a bit chaotic boys. So that's the reason why boys are not doing so well. The mental health. They say in the UK now, there are 4 times more suicides with men compared to women. There's a little brewing men's crisis. So, and I'm not taking away from initiative. I just wanted us to openly say, what does it mean when we do this very noble initiative? And then there's the brewing men crisis that's going on there.
Yes.
I don't have an answer. I'm also pondering.
So for us, fortunately, and I love that you brought it up, because it's something that's been in the works, because it was triggered by Gabriel Tlhagae from Botswana Life last year when he attended Embracing Just Me. And he was one of the 2 males that were attended. One was a husband of the speaker, and then another was him, because he was sponsoring his Botswana Life.
Yeah.
And he said, what about the men? And Kushata had answered that conversation. And, for us, we said, let's see how then we can bring in men into the conversation, and then focus solely on how we can catapult and empower men as well. Bringing men in the conversation to say, as we are embracing women, how do we ensure that we bring the men along the conversation? Because it's another thing to see a strong woman come back home so embraced with so much attitude and drive and empowerment to say, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm doing to her husband. Because and it's saying because he's stressed, he doesn't know how to come up from it, So we're going to hold a session as well for the next one with the women to say, how then do you encourage the conversation, to say, with your partner. How
I like that.
can you?
I like that.
How can I bring you along this journey?
Let it not be a soul thing.
Let it not be a soul
just
thing.
This
is
for the
us
woman.
as partners.
Yes, exactly.
How then can I bring you into the journey? Because I'm transforming.
And these are mothers of boys.
And these are mothers of boys as well.
Yeah.
So I had written something that I wanted to read for you, and we actually had created, was this a formula? Because we believe in the scientific thought of everything and the psychology of things, to say then, how then do we ensure that we're actually doing the right thing? So one, we realize that there's the societal expectations and the masculinity norms.
Yes.
We realize that there's the stigma around seeking help as men.
Yep.
We understood that there's the lag of tailored approaches, because in as much as we understand the economic effect of what's happening for women, what about for men?
Yep.
How then do you get there to ensure that you actually hit the right chord? And then we saw the accessibility, availability. We looked at the fear of the vulnerability that men are afraid.
Being vulnerable. Yes,
to be vulnerable, absolutely. The lack of visibility role models, because we saw that in as much as men, we have leaders out there that are doing great. It's very slim to see another man talk about his journey, his divorce, on other platforms because he doesn't want to be ridiculed by society. And then there also So then we created the equation to say it's A plus T plus S plus R plus F plus C plus P plus M, which is called empowerment. And the A is for awareness and education.
Okay.
How are we creating awareness and education for these people and the programs and the initiatives? How are we educating them to be vulnerable and to say that it's okay? And then there is the tailored programs to also see then how can we ensure that we customize and we have a skill-based program and workshops to ensure that we target the right tools for men. With women, we saw that there's women education. We saw that there's health, merely the same to how we tailored ElevateHER.
So with
ElevateHER, we looked at the priorities, and then we said with design, we can actually copy and paste it and put it for men as well.
Almost using the same template
as well. And then we looked at creating safe spaces. How can we ensure that the women we have conversations with create also the safe space for the men that they're encountering?
Because we get intimidated quite easily.
Absolutely. How do we ensure that you don't become too vulnerable to be unable to speak, but make sure that he's able to speak and speak his mind and not interrupt him?
Yes. The psychological safety space.
100%. And then we have the role models and mentors to say, do we have enough role models who are vulnerable to speak? Can we get more of Mr. K's in Botswana to have a conversation to say, I'm a man, but I'm able to embrace the journey of, my wife, my kids, my sister, my staff that are women. How am I challenging them to be better leaders? So also there is also the accessibility, ensuring that we have online resources. There's the family support, as well as the monitoring and evaluation to ensure that we consistently make sure that
the impact is measured.
So it's an array of things.
Thought.
Yes. We've given it some thought. It's actually a copy and paste because we needed to see then how we can apply ourselves. We wanted to launch it in October.
Okay, this year. Okay.
But we realized that we need more time.
That's what I was going to say. I said, don't crowd it too much.
Let me not crowd it too much.
Do one thing at a time.
We need more
Especially
time.
make sure what you've started actually works. Learn from it. Do it till it's sustainable and it's created some level of momentum.
100%.
And then you can try other things.
And then, but we also saw that there's an aspect of readiness. Men are not ready to have the difficult conversation. So how can we ensure that we ease them into the conversation so that we don't have a blank registration and we don't see more men coming into the program? Bana batla go bua le wena ka sephiri. I have my male friends calling me because I'm the most vulnerable of them all. I will have my conversation and say, they'll say, hey, Kealeboga, I'm not doing well.
Oh, shame.
This is what I'm going through. I'll have my friends saying that I'm suicidal, I have suicidal thoughts. What can I do, you know? So it's that conversation to say, how can we ready them? Yeah.
Wow. No, I mean, I posed the question not knowing that you've actually given it some thoughts. I'm very happy that you've given it thoughts.
Yes.
Because, you know, sometimes, and there's a strong school of thought out there that there's a big drive to empower women and leaving the boy and the man behind.
Absolutely.
And the repercussions are playing out. You know, in terms of, and now sometimes societal wise, we respond, there's a lack to actually attend to the men. And whether it's, like you said, you thought about it, or someone just from the show might think about it and say, I will support that part. And that's partly why we're here to say, that was a women program, ElevateHER. We're thinking about the men and the boys. And someone might be saying, I raise my hand, and I can help. So that is the spirit of this. And I really hope it does work.
Yeah.
Hey, man, we've covered so much. Yes. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
I think you know, you got so much to offer, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much.
In the journey. And I really, apart from being touched by the ElevateHER session, as I'm also looking forward, because I saw the eyes of the mentees to see the hunger, and I think we owe it to the country and the continent to really contribute and see. So thank you very much, Kealeboga, and all the best.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Cool. There we go. That's the growth well for you. Hopefully the insights, the learnings, the people like Kealeboga who have such ambitious programs on social entrepreneurship level, the impact they can make on Africa, they need your support, and let's call out and make sure that we give such a noble initiative the support that we can. So you know what to do. Press the subscribe so that we can bring you more Kealebogas, and hopefully next year we can bring you back again to see how the journey is going.
Success story.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate it.